Hi guys, almost 5:30 here in London, so just going to run through the market movements from today, and then we'll finish up just talking about what could happen tomorrow, running through the calendar and going through each thing from that. To start the day off today, the main data release, 9:30 UK inflation data, and if I just lower the time frame here to around that time, 9:30, you can see the move that took place where pound came under a bit of pressure, albeit not the biggest move in the world, following a largely in line report where you can see here, if I just hover my mouse over, inflation data year on year came in at 3%, so 0.1 downbeat from the last month, which saw the low of the day, switching back to the chart there, push lower. Obviously focus now going forward will very much be on wage growth to see if there is any at all. Obviously the pound, if we do take a look at this longer chart, you can see at levels not seen for quite some time. The high from yesterday, I'll just mark up here at 138.48 on the futures, not too far away at all from this Fibonacci level that you see there, the 0.618 Fibonacci level, very close to the pre-Brexit low, just circled here in that February and March period. So if we were to see perhaps later in the month some strong wage growth, we could easily get a push perhaps through there, or worse data or stronger US data. It could well be that this offers a nice entry point for those looking to get retracement back lower. Moving elsewhere, comments out of the euro sort of followed suit from yesterday, and it's turning into a bit of a ECB circus again. If we just bring the euro into the picture here, early on, comments from ECB's Villeroy, you can see as well here on the sort of the Dove Hawk sheet. Not a voter in this in the January meeting, but for the March, which is widely considered the most important one going forward, will be a voter. More dovish on the spectrum than not. But her comments there says the Eurozone still needs an accommodative monetary policies. Says recent euro increase is a source of uncertainty, and you saw a bit of euro weakness following that. So this area that I've circled here on the chart, euro come under pressure before finding good support on the low of yesterday. So you can see here, decent place to take and profit, and we saw a nice bounce higher from that at the end of that move. Elsewhere from these comments, the Bund pushing higher on this dovish play, and you can see found good resistance. At the same time, euro found support on this level from the 10th of January. Same time, the DAX, which had quite a seesaw day, as you can see here, pushed higher, and we almost made levels not seen since very early on in the year on the 9th there, but a decent push and a break out of this range at the similar times there before starting to come back down in a sort of equity sell-off into the afternoon, which we'll sort of touch upon in a minute. Not long ago we did have some comments from Weidmann, and I'll switch back to the ECB Dove Hawk scale, and you can see on that list there, Weidmann, the sort of the top hawk, both a voter in January and March. So here's comments. If I just switch screens, where is it? Weidmann, let me just find the exact comment here. Yeah, ending asset purchases this year would be appropriate, and at that time, if we just lower it down, you can see the euro appreciating here on these hawkish remarks, as would be expected from him. Not the biggest move in the world, but put us to a sort of a high for the afternoon, and since then you can see we've started to come back down in what would be widely expected from him. As mentioned, equities had a bit of a sell-off into the afternoon, having started the day really strongly, especially in the US. If we bring the S&P here into picture, you can see following the beginning to the week. Strong move, pushing higher this morning, 9 a.m. before making new all-time highs following the cash open. The Dow Jones, very similar, pushing through there, opening at 26,000, new all-time highs, double top, as you can see, to the tick on the cash open. And then the Nasdaq, similar picture. Talk of the government shutdown, a couple of sort of technical breaks as well, cash open, profit taking, sort of negative sentiment, saw equities fall down below support levels here. You can see initially that R2 in the Nasdaq held quite well before you got the break from that technical point of view, and what was resistance then of what was support then turned to resistance for this further push lower. S&P very much the same in what was a good support level in the previous high of the day, broke at exactly the same time, and of course the Dow Jones followed suit. All those markets, as you can see here, if I just circle the Dow, found quite strong support on that buy the dip mentality, and it will be really interesting to see if overnight these levels hold. S&P, you can see very similar, all at the same time, just around that sort of period, finding support, and the Nasdaq pushing lower as well, albeit not as clean cut, but you had these previous levels where it found resistance early morning and then support around here. We have had some other chat out. If I just get the exact comments up as well, that Steve Bannon, I actually do have the article here for you guys, is to be subpoenaed. So the first sort of person from within Trump's inner circle to be put before the jury. You had a bit of follow through in equities there. If we just go back to the charts, you can see it gave a further sort of move to the downside, albeit in, well, actually we are coming down to the lows again now. So well, will be worth having actually a look at this, and we'll continue to talk about it as we go on through. But these comments saw equities come under a bit more pressure, albeit gold sort of remained pretty stationary in that move. The DAX, as mentioned, was quite choppy in price action, moving higher and lower, and then eventually filling the gap from when it opened to begin the week. And you can see here finding resistance on these previous support levels from early Jan, and the move since then has been pretty one directional before finding support on sort of Monday, or well, Friday's close. So it's filling that gap now. Whether the sentiment from the US, if we can break lower, we'll drag down, remains to be seen. And you can see here, if I just draw a nice trend line from the bottoms here, it'll be quite interesting to see if we can get down to here and do find support on these points. Elsewhere in the markets, oil, relatively quiet day until nearly 5 o'clock. The low did break, and it broke quite a nice trend line actually, offering a decent opportunity around sort of 5 o'clock. Pivot as well going, so you can see here how it broke, came back for the classic short there, and what was really the only level of support, the closest level of support to the downside, that S1 working very well as a target level of support, and since then we've bounced higher and actually testing the upper end of that trend line now. As with pound, oil also in the highest levels, not seen for a while, or similar to euro as well. So whether this is a momentary sort of blip lower, or we do find resistance here, remains to be seen. Just having a quick look back at equity markets, so I can keep, as I can see the corner of my eye, the Dow just coming back down towards that R1. I'm just going to lower the time frame here. You can see finding decent area of resistance. We've already had 2 tests of this level. It'll be interesting now to see if we can get a third test, whether we actually do get that breakthrough. Now, because there's no new headline coming out right now, you only really would be interested in selling underneath, because obviously what this R1 is acting is good support. You can see just how strong this level is. Target wise, obviously, let me just move that time frame, make it a bit bigger, and you can see what was good level support yesterday morning around 7:30 would be a point where people would be looking to take profit, and as mentioned earlier, that buy the dip mentality could well be from a point like that. If we were to get a bigger move down, then it opens the door to the levels not seen since, you know, Friday evening, that just circled here around 3 o'clock, and you know, this does seem like a good area perhaps to get in and drive price higher in what still is, you know, a market for the bulls, despite perhaps a bit of negative sentiment of a government shutdown. You know, Steve Bannon subpoenaed to do with the whole Trump-Russia investigation as well. So some decent sort of moves from the markets today. I'll just quickly touch upon the movements from the dollar CAD, which found good support near that low of the day, but you can see here it's stuck in that range, similar to the yen as well, all day today. And obviously I'm just going to draw up where today started. It's been pretty range bound. The lows working quite well, and the highs working quite well as well there. Bitcoin, worth touching upon. I'm just going to change that chart over now, and if we have a look at, well, a daily continuation here, you can see when the futures opened back on the 18th of December. It's been pretty, you know, other than the odd update, it's been pretty one directional and in a sea of red across the cryptocurrency markets today. And it could be that big sort of psychological $10,000 handle, if you like, is sort of the target here. That price can get drawn towards. Euro, just going to touch upon it again before we go and have a look at the data releases for tomorrow. It's going to be a tricky market with comments out. You have the hawks are going to come out and say, yep, let's crack on with this tightening, or the doves say, well, let's be patient, let's wait to see what the data has to say. We need to have a more a looser monetary policy. So definitely be interesting in the days ahead, and that March meeting I think really stands out as the one to focus on. Moving on to tomorrow, I'm just going to get the calendar up for the 17th. Just going to transition the chart as you see there. So quite interesting data release. You know, we had the UK inflation today, we've got the EU inflation tomorrow at 10 AM, so not necessarily looking to be in a trade beforehand. That's the main sort of mover for the market there, and obviously the DAX is something you want to focus on. Expected year on year 1.4 for the headline reading, 0.4 for the month on month, giving a bit more attention to that year on year figure for this one. Euro, if I'm just going to quickly flick back to the euro and look at that weekly chart, and you can see just how high we are. We're going to have to make the chart smaller in that respect to get to levels not seen since 2014. So strong number, more chance of the tightening happening sooner. September at the moment is where they've set that guide for monetary policy to really start getting tight. At the end of that QE program, start seeing data really pick up, do well, inflation to their, you know, that 2% target. Euro could easily push on and see further upside. Going into the afternoon, you have some US data out, times to be aware of, that 2:15, 3 o'clock for industrial production, capacity utilization, manufacturing output, and then some housing market data. But the main mover for currencies will be that 3 o'clock for the Canadian dollar rate hike, which is priced in pretty much. Expected to see a 0.25% increase. Very much the case in the days leading up to a big event. You're going to see this sort of price action. It's gone nowhere, doing nothing. Last year, obviously they hiked rates twice. A couple of times was expected and they didn't, or it wasn't. You know, well, basically what was expected didn't occur, and then you saw some decent price action off trading data. If you like volatile markets, the dollar CAD is a good one to go for. So I would expect to see a decent move tomorrow, whether it is off the interest rate decision or the sort of the talk from their decision going forward, their sort of outlook. I would expect to see some decent action there. Going back to the calendar, you've got a couple of speakers. You've got the API in the evening. You've got some earnings out of Goldman Sachs, which obviously reported quite bad commodity revenue. They're said to have dropped 75%, lowest on record. So will be quite interesting to see how their earnings come out. They did say they had the best sort of start to a year for a while, so you know, ups and downs there, but it should be quite an interesting day, and then leads on to the end of the week as well, quite nicely. So just taking a quick look back at those equity markets just to see if we have had any follow through towards those lows. 1 second, still holding for now. You can see here, I'm just going to put this on a 5-minute chart, just drifting lower, no real conviction as of yet. S&P very similar in price action, and then that's, I mean, look how good those are. This is the type of thing now where I'd be wanting to draw a trend line on just to see, are we getting respected, are we getting squeezed in. It's working okay for now. Also worth making a point, and I say to you guys as well in the office, what people are doing in Europe between that sort of 1:30, they're having lunch, and that's what's occurring now in America as well. The end of the European day, volumes sort of slows down for a bit before coming back again late in the evening. So definitely, if you are trading at the moment, the Dow, the S&P and the Nasdaq are worth keeping an eye on, just in case we can get this push lower. If this holds, there's nothing to say we don't get back to the all-time highs in tomorrow's session. But we're just starting to pick up now, so I'm just going to stay on the mic just in case we do get a further follow through here. Worth just having a look here, those lows, getting a bit of a trend line on from the top, and you can see this line that I've got below here before from support from yesterday, so I'd already know where the target would be if one was to take this trade on. Just having a look elsewhere, the yen picking up a tiny bit, Bitcoin still near those lows, the FTSE as well. We'll just come on to the FTSE before coming back to this Dow Jones. The FTSE came down in that sort of equity sell-off following the negative aftermath of cash open, but has now found support in that buy the dip mentality, not far away from those all-time highs to consider. So tomorrow focus is going to be on that European data in the morning, going into a bit of US data, and albeit not really top tier, before the Canada rate decision, which is going to probably offer the best opportunity. I'd be aware of comments out of the ECB. I'd want to know who's a hawk, who's a dove before getting in. I'd have it printed out almost, or written down. You know, if it's not very unlikely to happen, but this would be the best move. If, say, Vitamin was going to come out and say something dovish, you're going to get a strong move. Or if, let's just have a look, if, say, Pratt was going to come out and say something very hawkish, the market's going to move a lot more than their usual sort of dovish stance. Probably going to wrap it here, just because we could be waiting for a while for this this Dow Jones to come. But I will catch you all in the morning when Anthony does the briefing around 8:30, and obviously I'll be posting into Trading Live as well. Hope you all have a good evening, and I will catch you later on.